Um, okay. All right. Now I'm not going to do that spiel again, if that's all right. Okay. So we're going to start. So has everyone needs to start with their paper and their pen. So grab your paper close by, and your marker can be a Sharpie, can be whiteboard marker. And we're going to start. I'm going to ask a question, and you are going to write. You're going to write one word on that piece of paper. Okay. So the question will have many answers, and so your response is your response, but just one word. Okay. So so it's nice and big so it can be seen. And we're going to go to gallery view in a second when I say go. So that does everybody understand what gallery view is? The difference between gallery and speaker view? It's, if you don't know where it is, it's up in the right hand corner. There's a button which says speaker or gallery view. And so we want to see everybody, all the faces, so we can see all the responses. So one word. If you really have to, use a hyphen to make it go a little bit further, you can, but don't write a whole sentence. You can't do this, okay? That would be cheating a little bit, although cheating is allowed usually in the workshops we run. Okay, so the question, the question is, and I want you to really listen to this. What is Zoom? Really, what is it? Just write down your one word response and then hold it up on the count of 3 when you've written it down. You can draw your response if you prefer. And if you really would prefer to, you can also move your response or come up with or find an object. So on the count of 3, everybody get their,
trying to.
Is everybody ready? Okay, so it's going to be a bit tricky. You're going to have to get close to see things. 1, 2, 3. Hold it so you can also see as well. Okay, I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of that. All right. Have a look around. Have a look around. We've got some words like connecting, portal, Brady Bunch, FaceTime, intense, window, online platform. It's connecting. It's here. Okay, so we're going to try. And have a little bit of a. Are there any observations you can make around some of the words which are there? You can hold them up. If you can just keep it hovering under your nose, and so we can sort of see them a little bit. Flattened universe. Sarah, let's talk about that for a second. Do you want to reflect on that for a second, or does anybody else want to make an observation about the idea of a flattened?
See, Sarah Lockwood has also written flat on her piece of paper, which I think is quite interesting. So we're obviously on the same page a bit there, Sarah. Flattened universe is actually from Guy Debord spoke about it in his Situationist International manifesto. A long time ago, he spoke about the idea of the flattened universe as we move towards a different way of communicating. So I feel like I'm experiencing that whole world as a flattened universe at the moment.
Does that resonate for anybody else? Alex, you've got something to say, yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely, yeah, sorry. Does that resonate for anybody else, the notion of a flattened universe?
Yeah.
You can jump on it.
Yeah, I said flat as well. Not only because of the flat screen, but also the way Zoom's been quite democratizing as a process, and it's been great to watch people from all different parts of the world and parts of the industry that we're in come together in this completely non-hierarchical way. So. Yeah.
That's a beautiful, I love the notion that I had not been thinking of flat in that sense. I had been thinking of in terms of two-dimensional whereas that's a nice, that opens it up. Had anyone else kind of heard the word flat in differently, or to the idea that it's a democratized place? Had people thought of it differently?
It made me think of the flat earthers, how people think the earth's flat, and now we're moving into the screen reality. that we're actually going back to the flat earth again.
I was thinking about the texture of the space and actually how you feel afterwards, after lots of Zoom meetings and connecting via Zoom. I feel quite flat. It doesn't give you the same sort of energy back as the real world does. I feel like I'm not getting the same, energy from experiences. So there's a flatness in the texture, maybe.
Interesting. Yeah. Heidi, you've written intense. Do other people share that sentiment? Put your thumbs up if you share the idea that it's intense. What do we mean by that? What do we mean by intense? Do we want to just maybe write some comments in the chat function? You can also respond in the chat function. Disembodied, draining, inside my world, visually overstimulating, concentrating, intense eye concentration to people's body language, social distancing. I don't feel that Zooms are flat. I feel exposed. Okay, all right, great, everybody. So listen, we're gonna look at all of this, and we're gonna ask. The question is, what is Zoom? And as a space, as an art making space, we're all most people here are artists that are somehow involved in the participatory arts, and so how can we enable participation through this space? Is just something that we've asked ourselves, and so we did a series of experiments, and so we're just going to do a couple of quick exercises. So we do something, and then we're going to think about it afterwards. So is everybody ready to move on? Okay, great. So listen, also with your paper and your pen, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and then we're going to hold them up. So again, you can just hold them up so everybody can see them, and it's good if you're nice and close. And so writing nice and large is really helpful so people can see your response. Okay, so, and this is a more, everybody ready? Pen, paper? Awesome, here we go. So, this is drawn from the very classic game, the Would You Rather. Do people know the game Would You Rather? Okay, so the first question is, and you just write the answer, would you rather be a boat or a plane? And on the count of three, we're all going to hold them up. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Excellent, excellent. Okay, next question. Kay, do you want to read the next one? Yeah, you're muted, Kay.
Can you hear me now? I think I'm in. Would you rather be a cloud or a lake? Cloud or lake?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Last one, lucky last. Okay, would you rather be salt or pepper? One, two, three. Awesome. Okay, so that's a very sort of classic game which I'm sure people have played as a nice way to kind of warm people up and for groups to get to know each other. We're going to try, in the way that we experimented with all of these exercises, we asked people to prepare exercises which they would have done normally, like that. And then we tried to push it into the Zoom space. So we're now going to try something which is we've not done before. So because there's such a large group, the way that this normally would have been adapted doesn't quite work. So I hope you're going to roll with this, but we're going to do a complete experiment. So you're ready for something completely new? Okay, so this has never been done at least by me. So does everybody know the rename function in Zoom? So if you don't know the rename function, there's up in your little, if you hover over your face, there's 3 little dots which come up in the right-hand corner. And if you click the 3 little dots, a little drop-down menu appears, and then it says rename. Has everyone found that? And you can, if you click rename, then it gives you an option to rename yourself. And once you write in your rename, once you press OK, that will come up on your screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to play with the rename function. Let me know if you are struggling with that, or is everyone feeling okay?
No, I don't know how to. I'm on an iPad, so you don't hover with a mouse, and a few people are on a phone. So what do you do there?
There's still the option to rename yourself. You've got to find those 3 dots on the
Sometimes, Karen, if you go on at the bottom of your screen, or maybe it's at the top for you, it says participants. And if you click on that, you may be able to find your name. And next to your name, it should say something like more, and you drop down.
Correct, yeah, it's the other way.
And so for anyone who's just come in, we're doing the rename function.
Okay. So this, as we said, this is a complete experiment. So if it doesn't quite work for you, that's okay. And it's going to be a little bit tricky for some people that have got an image on their name. So it'll work for some, not everybody. So we're just going to try it and see how it goes, and discuss how we can improve it afterwards. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am going to ask a question, and in that rename function, you're going to write down your answer in the rename function. But before we do that, we are all going to turn our videos off. So we're going to stop our videos. Now you can still go to the rename function.
To stop your video, it's on the bottom of your screen, and there should be a video camera, and you can click on stop video.
Everybody managed to find the stop video function? Great. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get the rename box open and ready, and I'm going to ask this question, and then when I say go, just press OK or return, or hit the button which activates your answer, and all of the answers will appear on the screen. So so this is an attempt to kind of do a sort of group poem. So what we're going to do here is a bit of a group poem. So the question is, how has COVID-19 made you feel? How has COVID-19 and the last 3 months made you feel? Don't care about spelling. Okay, when we're all ready, what we're going to do is we're going to, when we press go, after that, if someone else has a word makes you think of something, then you can change you can rename yourself again. And so we'll have this, and then you can look around, and then you can change your name again. So we can start to, so ready, 1, 2, 3, go. If something sparks your interest, then you can change your name again. Let's just see how we can, if there's a sort of a scrolling. keep reading other people's words, and if they make you think of something else, or extend the way that you felt, or it makes you think of something else, rename yourself again. Keep flicking to the other pages and checking out what other people are writing. If you haven't yet, take a chance to go to another page where you're not and just watch the words change. All right. Let's pause. As a last rename function, can you just you could call yourself whatever you want, but you can rename yourself by your real name or any name you would like. But then can you also put your state or a place that identifies where you're from? Could be your Aboriginal land or the state where you're from or the name of the country, just so that we know where people are from around the country. Okay, let's turn the video back on. In all of these experiments, we asked ourselves one question just to get a sense of the most important question we asked was, did we care? Was that interesting? Did we actually care what was going on? Because a lot of things that we did, we didn't care. We're like, okay, that was our engagement was low. So I'm going to ask you guys, and you can respond in any way you want. We can put your hand up and you can talk, or you could write a piece of paper and put it up. But did you was that how high was your care factor? High? Was it low? Were you engaged? Did you enjoy that? I'm happy to take any kind of general reflections because that's never been done before. You can write in the chat function.
I guess they could do high, low.
Yeah, that's a beautiful idea.
If you-
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a thing. So let's start with that. Was your engagement high, low, middle? Yeah. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Beautiful. Okay. Do you want to talk to me about just make some observations, any reflections on that?
Sue.
The screen, being the screen muted, meant that you had no judgments about who you're looking at. That was a great idea.
That's nice. Always good to have been in non-judgmental space. Anybody else?
I felt, sorry.
We'll go, Heidi, you go, and then Alex afterwards. Do you want to...
I felt it was a little sparkle of a humanitarian moment of just all feeling connected about our journeys.
Yeah, nice. Alex?
This was more about pace, like just reflecting on what Lily did last week for those that were there, that she did kind of poetry in the chat, and my own sense of pace appreciated that rollingness compared to this one, which was a bit more kind of fluid and a little bit harder to see the changes.
Yeah, I would love. I was in my mind hearing a sound effect for each change. It's Frankie.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting to use that in a context that I imagine, well, certainly myself and maybe others feel many emotions and conflicting things and things that are contradictory. So it was kind of cool to see that rippling through and reflecting that back to me, but done collectively. So I like that.
Yeah, and there's a comment from Sarah Austin saying it works better when people don't have images, and I definitely agree with that. And yeah, pages is fine. I'm gonna how could or let's shift the conversation. How could you adapt it to make it work? Certainly in a smaller group would be a very different outcome.
Yeah, like we are in pace. We are because we are living in a space.
Keep going, Luke.
And while we are in a space for because we can't be always be in that ice. We can't way too long. Because if we are in the ice, it really we have to share our blood. We do by knowing we got the virus. But without the virus, we can't have peace with it. We can't.
Yes, there's something about being with not in the same place, so that kind of allows some kind of joining of people's ideas. And certainly my favorite part of that was watching just the words change. Almost it was better as an audience than a participant at times. Okay, so just any other final comments on that or ways that possibly you could adapt it?
In terms of a comment, I was just going to say when it first started, I think if I were to rename this activity, it would be called popcorn, because at first there's just an explosion of words and it's like, oh wow, I'm like looking at everybody's. And then like if you're microwaving popcorn, you get that first explosion and then you get that slower pop pop, pop, and it becomes quite calming and meditative, and it's something you can all enjoy together. And so I quite enjoyed that.
Got a name? It's good to have a name.
It would rely on everybody having their own device, though. I'm just thinking, if I was presenting to a class, if they didn't all have their own device, holding up like words on a bit of paper might be their only option, rather than all renaming.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like one of the objectives of today was to focus in on the idea of, if we were all in that sort of 100% isolation or 100% Zoom world, as opposed to the artist in Zoom and then the class in the space, which is actually quite, which has been happening for the last 5 or 6 weeks. So very much all these exercises have been geared around the idea that just exploring Zoom just for itself as an artistic medium. But yeah, there's any other final thoughts on that one? Yeah, Sue.
It said that David Bowie used to write by putting pieces of words, putting words on paper, throwing them up and letting them fall. And then that was how he created some of his song lyrics. So it would be carefully handled as to who would speak it, or two overlapping voices, but it would be lovely to hear as well, to just, this occasional lonely, happy, grateful, whatever the words that were coming through, and maybe in a contrapuntal style, so that you've got these accentuations of the sounds as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was nice seeing the sort of different, the contrapuntal kind of ideas weaving through it. There was some quite different, it was quite a sort of reflective, almost kind of, not sad, but kind of people verging on kind of, questions around being alone. And then other people, there was the sort of joy which started picking in, and you could see that sort of infiltrate other people's ideas. So it was interesting watching that sort of as a sort of narrative across the exercise. Okay, so this is kind of what we did. We did a whole series of exercises and we adapted them, but we did it in through a series of creative developments. So I'm just going to sort of step you through our process that we did over with all the artists we worked with, and then after that, Kay will lead you through her work and how that sort of she took a lot of that work and then really developed it to amazing effect in the work she's been doing through the program at the Opera House. And then we'll finish with a couple of art making exercises. How you guys are going? You kind of all still with us? So I'm just gonna do a screen share and just kind of try and whiz you through our process. So here we go. So can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Opera House has a program called the Creative Leadership and Learning, and that traditionally happens in schools. It's our sort of outreach program to schools, and so we had to transition it to online very quickly, as did lots of people when COVID happened. So quick overview of Leadership and Learning. It's a 3-year program with schools. The mission of it is to move beyond a transactional relationship with schools, and to one that's based around creativity. And we use art as that kind of the key driver of that. So there's 2 streams of activity: projects by artists in schools, and then professional learning with teachers. We use the shows and the building of the Opera House to unpack all that activity. There's about 20 to 25 artists engaged in the program across the year. It's a small program for schools, but with big impacts on the schools. So it's a 3-year journey for a school. So we really go deep into what is creativity with that school. The projects which artists lead are 20 weeks. So they really go deep with one class, and they create a show which has a performance at the Opera House or at school. And each year there's a cohort of teachers that go through, and so they really explore creativity in the classroom. So it's a 3-year program where really we try to work with schools to kind of sort of explore creativity across the full school kind of ecosystem. So to do all that very quickly and to pivot and move towards Zoom, we ran 5 2-day developments, and there were 10 artists involved in that. The objective was to develop an online participatory practice and skills around that, and to keep people employed because it was horrifying watching people's livelihoods get decimated overnight. And so we wanted to make sure that all our artists that we worked with could still have a job. Here are some of the artists. They're all amazing. They're all amazing practitioners, all with differing skill bases: theatre makers, visual artists, dancers, filmmakers, musicians, and a lot of them crossing over all of those fields.
And radio.
And radio?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have any radio specific artists, but if that's an interest of yours, Luke, give us let's talk. So here's what we wanted to test in Zoom. We basically asked ourselves these questions: what were the best group sizes? What was the most appropriate duration of a workshop? How do drama games, art, music work? What adaptations needed to be made? What challenges are there? Multiple devices with different operating systems? And how complex could you make workshops? Was it, doing complicated sequences? So these are the things we did. And what we had was a care factor rating. We rated everything about how engaged we were. So our objective was, what did it make us feel and think like? And if it didn't, why not? And if we could make it an improvement, could we get there? Could we get this level of engagement and messiness and colour and beauty and joy? We basically pulled apart a whole series of traditional games. These are quite theatre-based games. On the left, you see there's things like Hot Seat, but which are sort of, and I've just given an example. We basically went through it, and then the yellow column is like, did we care? Was the care factor high in this? Was it low? And we basically talked about it and reflected on it, just like we did a moment ago. And don't expect you to read all that. That's just an example of how we pulled the parts of many. We got like 17 pages of these games. And the ones that were, and it just basically allowed us to kind of develop some key thinking around it. So, and so we came up with this idea that there was some essential preparation that needed to happen. So otherwise this didn't enable the kind of workshop to flourish if this didn't happen. So you had to set up the space with your students or the participants. They had to think about the position of their laptop, the camera angle, just quite simple. And most people did this intuitively, and people just knew this, but it was important to make it explicit. Simple rules like we have done today: mute, stop video, view control. It's interesting, we played a lot with virtual backgrounds. People seem to be less and less inclined to change the virtual backgrounds. It's less of a thing these days. It's interesting to watch how that has kind of disappeared. It's just an observation. We talked about etiquette, using, different ways of kind of communicating so that everyone's not talking on top of each other, particularly for students. That was really important. And we played with the notion of developing an understanding of the screen. So kind of, really playing with the notion that this is a screen, that we can kind of, that we need to play with it. And that's the world we were in. And we came up with these guiding principles as a way to help us design workshops. And this is just to help people take this and push it into how they could design and work with their groups. And we had everyone from primary schools to secondary schools and teachers doing professional learning. So the guiding principles, we came up with smaller groups. So we've broken that rule today with the size of the group straight away, but that's all good. Simple is best. Keeping things really simple was always a much stronger choice. Regular sharing. So getting kids to kind of regularly do little spotlight sharing to keep their engagement high. And the rhythm of the workshop was really important, to keep things, to play with rhythm, to make sure that we weren't getting stuck in either moving too fast or too slow, but to keep that rhythm interesting and dynamic. And mystery, surprise, and secrets. That was super important. There needed always to be a little bit of mystery, and Kay's an absolute winner at this. But we also, and this flows into the analog and the digital. The more analog and the digital there could be, the better the digital space was. And so I'm going to talk specifically about that from another artist's perspective, before Kay then talks about her work. But the mystery, surprise, and secrets, and analog and the digital, were super important. And so I'm going to give you an example of an artist called Curly Fernandez, who was running some teacher professional learning. And so he essentially prepared a whole series of, his workshop was exploring the sort of quite freewheeling aspects of the artistic process, when things were really quite unbridled. And so he set up in his home a shirt hanging on a washing line, and so everyone was watching in Zoom. Everyone was in Zoom watching this, and he sort of curated this through a different camera. So he had two cameras on. One camera focused on his shirt. My internet just went a little bit unstable. Can you still all hear me? Still a few thumbs up. Okay, I'll crack on. Okay, so then throughout the workshop, he then switched his mode to kind of a little bit more performative. So in the first part of the workshop, the audience, the teachers had to write poems and about the shirt, and unpack the image, and talk about, you know, everything that it made them think and feel, from a social perspective to emotional. They wrote stories. They did instant writing responses. And they spent a morning investing in this image and this shirt. And then he came back after lunch, and he flicked to a different camera view, and he sort of flicked to a different performance mode as well. And he pulled out a big pair of scissors, and he started absolutely cutting the shirt up until it was absolutely decimated. And so they were outraged, and they were kind of, you know, flummoxed, and there was a lot of people were really concerned. You know, they'd invested in this shirt, and they're like, oh my God, you're destroying the thing we love. But then after that, they had a bit of a conversation, but then he had prepared all these packs, and he had made these packs with similar shreds of the shirts. And so they were all given these packs. They had all collected these packs from the school, or had them, and in the packs were the shirt. So when they opened the packs, there was the shredded shirt. It was the analog and the digital all merging. And also there were a whole bunch of jewelry making bits and bobs. And they sat down and they talked about how it had made them feel, what had just happened, as they made jewelry from the shredded shirt and started to wear the shred. They basically transformed it into another form, and they made crowns and necklaces and all sorts of different pieces of jewelry and kind of adornments based on this shredded shirt. And so the analog part was the packs that had been prepared and sent forward to the school, so that the two worlds could merge. And we found the more that we've done that, the better it's been. The more we can kind of bring in analog moments, where even simple things like where everyone has a little cup of water and they have to flick water on their face if they get something wrong, or the more that there's things that have been prepared and sent to the school, or we can curate the materials in those packs, or give little moments of surprise and mystery, the better it is, the more engaging. So we're always looking at ways to bring in the analog and the digital. So that's one case. That's kind of one look at one case study. So now's a great time for Kay to kind of talk about her work in more depth, and so you can get another sort of case study of ways that we've been working in school. Kay, do you want to jump in?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been doing at Campsie Public School, but rather than you looking at my face, I would like everyone to find in the screen, there's a black screen that says Mystery Cam. Actually, you know what? I'm going to spotlight it right now. So I hope you can all see. It's terribly exciting. It's just black. There's nothing there. And it says Mystery Cam. And so what I would do when I worked with this school and we were remote learning, I was trying to put elements of that surprise, magic, and secret. And one of the first things I did is I revealed a mystery cam. So you can count down in your head, 5, 4, 3. Oh, sorry. Before I should do that, actually, just I asked the children, because I worked with a grade 3 class, what do you think is behind the camera? What do you think is behind the mystery camera? So if anyone would like to put some suggestions of what they think is behind the mystery camera before I reveal it, please write it in the chat box below. A pet. Oh, a goat puppet. Oh, I love it. A nightscape. Oh, a nightscape. That would be nice. Thank you, Adelaide. Food. Oh, monkey puppet. Small child. Something fluffy. Okay, well, pajamas. Oh, great. A duck and a giraffe. Oh, someone was here earlier. Water. God, wow, a forest with an old car behind which it's a group of teens smoking something illegal. And on that note, let's find out, oh, or a canal. Yes, let's find out what is behind the mystery cam in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! It is my table. And so when I ran my workshops, I would have myself as, you know, where people could see my face, but we would also have my table so that we could make things together. Another reason for this is for some people, when they said Zoom is quite draining, seeing something other than a face, I find very, very refreshing and a nice break for the eyes. Someone's just asked me, can you show us the setup? Thank you for asking. Let me show you my setup. So hopefully you can see that. So my general setup is I am currently seated at my desk in front of a window, and I've got a backdrop behind me, and then I've got this stand here, and I've got another picture to show you of what that is close up. I've got my laptop elevated onto a box. I find that I get just a more direct of my face that way, and I've also got a desk light so I can spotlight things. And behind me I have a backdrop. And then a closer look at my current setup is I've got 2 stands. I got this from Reverse Garbage, which is a recycling, upcycling center in Sydney. And these were just some, I think, display stands, but you could easily use dowel on blocks, or you could, what I like to say, you can MacGyver it into whatever way you like. I've got this dowel going across the top. Sometimes I use 2 dowels, and then I've got a phone sitting on top, and I've got a selfie stick. But today with this setup, I've just tried something new where I've just taken my phone, and I can't show you it because I'm using my phone at the moment, but I've taken 2 rubber bands and put them over my phone. What can I show you that? You pretend that's my phone. So I've got it like this and this, so that when it sits on top of the dowel, it's just got a little bit of grip so that it is less likely to fall off. I hope that makes sense. And then, very important, my phone is connected to a charger because Zoom drains my phone like nothing else. So, oh, and I've also used flexible gear ties. You can use tape or rubber bands or wire or something like that. This is so that it's adjustable, so I can go up and down. So that is my setup. Hopefully that is clear. So without further ado, one of the first things I did is I'm working with a grade 3 class, so they're around 8 years old. And what I did before before the session is I found out who's going to be there, and I asked the teacher to send me their photos, their student photos, and I printed them out and cut them out so that, and because we're recording this, I prepared some generic faces. So you can imagine I found out who's going to be in my group, and then I was like, oh, there you are, you're all here. Well, let's make a collective picture together. Because I also have a background in illustration. I did a little bit of cartooning in my day. And one of the first things I asked everyone is, what is your favorite animal? So while I'm getting these things, feel free to let me know what your favorite animal is as well. But for the, because of time, I will just keep, and I'll just show you what the students did. Oh, a moose. I love that someone loves a moose. So I found out that the first group loved cats, cheetahs, and chickens. So we made a cat cheetah chicken together. And I drew this in real time. A baby hippo. You know what? This is too good. I'm just going to do it now. All right. Let me just change it up a little bit, because who wouldn't want to see a moose hippo, right? Who wouldn't want to see that? Okay. Okay, let me just do that now. So this is just an ordinary sketch pad, and I've got just some pens. Someone said a seal, baby hippo, wombat, moose. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Okay, so I would imagine the features of a moose. This requires a little bit of memory of what a moose looks like. There we go. My apologies to the moose lover. I am hoping that the anatomy is sort of correct. Okay, and if this looks slightly like a reindeer, it'll be a reindeer moose. Okay, and then we've got that, and then someone said a hippo, oh, and a seal. Right, okay. Hippos are kind of rotund, voluptuous creatures. So I'm just gonna do, oh wait, no, they have one of these tail things because they flick whatever comes out of their bottoms. Yeah, they use their tails for that. Okay, and then we've got a seal. Ooh, this is an interesting, okay. And then, okay. Okay, so we would create a picture together. And they would be directing me, by the way, when I'm drawing this. And then I would be asking the different children what they would like to be wearing as they ride their moose, seal, wombat, hippo. And so I would draw it for them, and they would tell me what they would like. Actually, if you do have a favorite item of clothing or a style or something, a stripy tutu, got it. I will try my best. Okay, we've got a stripy tutu. Anything on top here? Just hat, right? Ooh, okay. I'm gonna put a hat there. Okay, we've got a hat and a scarf. Okay, a scarf. There we go. All right, and leopard. Oh, leopard. I'm gonna do a leopard top. Thank you very much. Leopard top. Okay. Okay, and then didn't really leave very much space for the faces, but that's okay. And once we have done our picture, oh, a onesie. Oh my goodness. Yep. Any particular kind? Oh, a leopard onesie. Right. Leopard onesie. Okay. There we go. Yep. There we go. A leopard onesie. And then after we have drawn their outfits, then I would take their faces, which I would have pre-printed out, and stuck them on so that we have our picture of us together. And I will show you the examples of what I did with the students as well. And it was a really nice bonding activity, I found, especially because I didn't know them, and not being in the same space as the people. Oh my goodness, the hat's disappeared. I just have to draw it on, sorry. Hat takes priority to talking. Okay, so we've got the hat. So there we go. So Was this with a whole class or a small group? Thank you for that question. So these Zoom groups were about anything between 3 to 6 students at a time, which is why if you have a look here, my first group, there were 4 students. This is the leopard chicken cat. Quite like this one. The second group had 3 students. This was our koala panda dog, husky. Oh, mine is a wolf and an owl. Oh, thank you, Luke. I like owls too. This was a unicorn puppy sheep dog, and the sheep came later, which is why I just had to put a caption of that on the side. This group had 3 children, and the final group had 6 children in it, and I've just used these yellow stickers to cover up their faces because it's being this session's being recorded. And as you can see, this group, they liked gorilla, bunny, sheep, dog, huskies. And with this group, one person really wanted to be an expensive looking businessman. Another girl really wanted to be a princess, and this boy just wanted to be in a pencil case. And so we did that. And this person, this one was funny. He was the kind of kid that if you ask him anything, he'll just say, like, what do you like to eat? Everything. What do you like to learn? Oh, actually, no, sorry. I should say it the other way. What do you like to eat? Nothing. What do you like to do? Nothing. What do you like to learn? Nothing. And so I said, hey, what would you like to wear? And he went, no. Oh, I can't say nothing. So he said everything. So that's why we drew like 10 pairs of socks and lots of scarves and things like that. And so what I did with these drawings is I took a photo of them, and then the following week I did a screen share and we colored them in on Zoom on the whiteboard function, which Frank will be showing you a little bit later. And so that was a way that we could do a collaborative artwork together. And do you recommend a particular resolution for the phone camera? That's a great question. I just have the one, it's just doing it on its own. So I don't know what the resolution is, but the best resolution possible, I would say, the highest resolution you can go. So this was our first activity, and we called them our animal mashups drawings, and it was a really nice way to get to know these kids, because when you're not in the same room with the people you're going to be working with, you have to try and find ways that you can connect. Oh, someone's just asked, how did the kids color in? So actually, oh, will I be able to show you? Okay. This hasn't been prepared before, so just give me 1 second. Basically, maybe it will be useful for me to show you how they did this. What I can do, maybe Frank, after the artwork activity, while you're doing that, I'll get something set up so I can show people at the end how they colored this in. Is that okay, Frank? Yeah, okay, so I'll show you that later, how they did that. So that was one of the first activities we did together. And I've used these sketch pads a lot. We've done it to discuss ideas. So for example, we are going to be doing a puppet parade together. We're still discovering whether we're going to do it in the Zoom space or in the real world, because we can go back into schools now. And so, you know, I asked them, what kind of puppet parade would you like? And they said pirate ships, magical, unicorns, haunted house, world, space, under the sea, video games, candy, so circus. So we will be going through this together and voting. And even today, I'll just show you with our reflections and observations. I've also just been writing them down in my sketch pad so that I can keep an idea of all the different words. This was from our rename activity of how does COVID-19 make you feel. And so it's just a way that we can come back after doing something digital, seeing something analog, as in, you know, like practical in the real world kind of stuff. So that's one of the first things we did together as a group. And I did that also because in the first session, I just wanted them to get used to being together online. We didn't make anything together in the first session. I didn't know how comfortable people would feel doing that. So it was just more about
June 26th.
participating through your voice, using the chat box, and then seeing a collaborative drawing come together. Another thing that we did, I wonder if we should do this next. I will show this next. I'm going to switch to my face. So let me just switch to my face, spotlight my face. Okay. Oh, we can see my, I'll just quickly show this before we move on because they were on screen. For the people who arrived early, we made some of these. This is somebody's request, and this is somebody's request. We made a giraffe and a pelican. Okay, so one of the other things that I did is I introduced people to a friend. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend Rocky. He is a raccoon who lives in a recycling bin because his favorite food is paper. And I should also tell you that the children's performance is also inspired by Escape from Trash Mountain by Trash Puppets, and it's all about the puppets were all made with recycled materials, so it's quite apt that my friend lives in a recycling bin. And so he would only come out if people say Rocky come out, but you're all muted, so I'm just going to imagine that you said Rocky come out. There we go. Like to wave to Rocky, everyone? Oh, Rocky, this is, we're doing a Zoom workshop at the moment with lots of artists all over the world. Oh, there aren't any children today. They're all adults. This is actually kind of a grown-up art. What's that? This is our overhead camera. Yes, I know. Okay, Rocky, stop getting distracted. Stop. Hey, stop it. Stop getting distracted. You're hungry. We're very busy, actually. We don't look at me like that. Fine. If any, I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to go into gallery view. Let me just cancel my spotlight and go into, if everyone can go into gallery view for a moment. Does anyone have a spare paper from before? Okay, Kat has her spare paper. So Rocky, we have some people who have spare paper from our activity. Okay, hey, come down. Hey, stop. Breathe. Do your exercise. You feel better? Okay. Well, Kat is just going to feed you by just putting her paper just quite close to the screen so you can nibble. You can nibble at the paper. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see Kat. Okay, there we go. Thank you very, very much, Kat. Would anyone else like to feed Rocky? Let me see. Anyone? Let me just see. I have to scroll through. Okay, anyone? Gabby. If Gabby would like to just hold your paper right up to the screen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that was a big piece. Are you okay? Yeah, you're okay? Okay, fine. And then we might just do one more. Sam, you've got some paper. If you'd just like to hold it a little bit closer. Oh, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. You feel better? Okay, you feel better. Great. So, so that's, sorry, we've got one more. We have to do one more. We have Tanya, and Tanya's got a little person who's holding up some paper to the screen. Would you like to hold it? There we go. Oh, thank you ever so much. Thank you so much. You feel better? You feel better? Okay, great. So one of the reasons Rocky is with me, and let me just spotlight myself again, is he's just not a human face. So it's just kind of nice to have non-humans come to Zoom sometimes. And he was a nice continuation. He started off in Zoom, and then when we went into the real world, they got to meet him in the real world as well. And it is lovely to see, yes, when the spaces shift when children are present. I absolutely agree. So Rocky is also here because he's a little bit cheeky, so he might come back a little bit later. So I've got some good news, Rocky, and I've got some bad news. The good news is we are ready to move on and show an activity that we did together. The bad news is we're going to have to say goodbye to you now. Rocky, 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 hey, okay, you know what? Okay, maybe if we can get, okay, fine. We're terribly, okay, fine. Don't look at me like that. All right, if we can get, actually, Tanya, your little person, can your little person please just reach over and just give Rocky a little pat? Is that okay? Actually, if everyone can just reach across and just give Rocky a little pat, that'll just make him feel a little bit better. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. That's lovely. Thank you. You feel better? Okay. You will be coming back soon, okay? You will be coming back. Okay. So let me just, okay. All right, so you'll see soon. All right. So that's Rocky. And he came every week into our Zoom group. And so the second week, and I'm going to get back to my overhead camera, I just have to find it here, is I had an activity, and I had this activity in an envelope. And I told everyone we were going to be making a puppet today. And the kind of puppets we would have are called magazine mashups. This is when, actually, and I didn't really explain what they were. We're going to be making magazine mashups. So for this activity, you will need some magazine or newspaper. You will need some scissors. You will need some glue. And you will need a bit of cardboard. It can be some scrap cardboard. So I've got just some regular cardboard here. I've also got some cardboard from some packaging. It would be great if you have some recycled packaging. Now you don't have to make this with me, by the way. I'm just showing you what you would need if you were to make this yourself. You would need some sort of stick. It can be a chopstick, a barbecue skewer. It can even be a pencil. As long as it's relatively stick shaped, it will work. Finally, you will need some tape, preferably masking tape, though Sue Wallace in the group will know that not all masking tape is created equal. So one that actually sticks would be great. But if you have sticky tape, that's okay too. So we're going to look through the magazine and just find a face so that we can cut out. And I would be showing this to the students, and they're about 8 years old, as I said. And I'm like, I wonder what face I'm going to cut out. And at some point I'll be like, oh, and I had pre-stuck a child's face into the magazine. And that is when they get wild and laugh. And so again, finding moments to put people's faces into the magazine. And so I'm like, oh, are you a celebrity? No, I didn't know you were really into yoga. And so we would just keep looking through these magazines and find a face that we would like to cut out. Oh, that looks good. Okay. So I've got a face that I'm going to cut out, and then we need something that can be a body. So I'm going to look through this one, and what's great about the supermarkets like Coles or Woolies is that they've got free magazines, so you don't even have to buy anything. So we'll be looking up, actually, you know what? I like the pun in this one, seedless greetings. I am a sucker for puns, so I'm going to use that as my body. I'm just going to cut it out. Here we go. And doesn't have to be perfect. And we would all be doing this together. I am doing this relatively quickly, but in a group, I would play some music in the background, and we would just make things together. And it was just a really nice space to be making. So, okay, so I've got a grape body and a man's head. There you go. Okay. And then I'm going to stick this, actually, you know what, I'm going to stick it on my recycled cardboard. I'm going to stick this onto my picture. I think he actually, you know what? This almost looks like a grape version of Jabba the Hutt. I don't know if you can see that. I envisage that. This is his body. Anyway.
Very funny.
Yeah. Did kids have their camera on their desks or their faces? I left it up to them. So some students would tilt their laptop or camera down so that we could just see their hands working, and others just left their devices as is, and then they just held up what they were working on, and every now and then we would pause and just look at what people had made. One thing I did find is that I needed to give everyone a lot of time. This took a lot. Everything I found on Zoom, actually working with children in general, everything just takes a lot longer than I thought it would. So I've just stuck on my head to some sort of body onto some cardboard. I'm just going to cut it out. So this is really, really simple. Some people in the group really love making things, and others are a bit indifferent, and some actually feel quite anxious about making things. So I tried to make the activity as simple as possible, and no one needed to get help from their parents, but that is an option as well. So we've got our body, and then I'm going to flip it over and get a stick and stick it. There we go. And we have Grape Man. Da, 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 da. I'm feeling grape. So yes, scissors. I did ask the question, someone's asked the question, using scissors, did you have to worry about OH and S? And I did ask the teacher in advance, will scissors be okay with this group of children? And she said yes, they all can use scissors safely. So I just took her word for it. But I did find, I do have to say, one of the groups when we did this was at school, but they still Zoomed from school. And because, yeah, so there were some groups where I was working with 4 children in 4 different places with me making this. And then one session, there was a group of children at school, and they would be making this from their classroom. So this is what I've made today, but I will show you, just like they do on craft shows, what I've prepared earlier. So, okay, now hopefully you can all see this. So you can also do it so that you've got different faces and different bodies. You can, so we've got unicorn baby. We've got the prawn queen. We've got butterfly woman. La, 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 la. We've got the jogger. We have, this one's great for Zoom. Dino girl, frustrated. We have, fish lady. We have, this one I asked the boy what his favorite animal was, and he said a pigeon. So we have pigeon lady. La, 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 la. We have one of my personal favorites, baby man. Baby man. Oh, wait, we can't see him. Baby man, baby man. He's our neighborhood baby man. 2, 3 more to go. We've got this Woolies tomato juice woman. This had a little bit of flair. We added some pipe cleaner arms to that one. We've got breakfast dumpling face man. He's kind of trying to take over the world. And finally, we had one student who's like obsessed with Thor Ragnarok, and because I have an affinity for puns, it's more of an affliction. We have Thor Ragnar Roast. I don't know if you can see that one. Yes. There's Thor Ragnar Roast. There we go. So we've got a whole bunch of different characters, and in terms of what we did with them, we made shows together, and it was a lot easier to do this when we were in the same space, but we were able to have some people operate the puppets where other students would do the voices. And you can create a script together on Chatbox, and then have some people read out the words while other people do the puppets. I'm so glad you liked Ragnaros. Thank you very much. When we did the shows, and I forgot to, I don't really have an example of what I can show you, but my setup, if I just find my face, let me find my face just a second. I never thought I would have to say that in a workshop. Let me, okay, everyone.
No, is this the Spider-Man or is this Thor to you?
Oh, yeah, Spider-Man or Thor. Yeah, I think Thor and Spider-Man were probably the two most popular choices. Now, with this current setup, and I just have to find something to show you, the benefits of doing a workshop from your actual studio is you just have stuff places. So as you remember, I have something going across the top of my of my setup. So what that means is I can actually, okay, hope you can see that. I can put a curtain down, and then we can be like, huh, thank you so much for coming, everyone. So we could do shows like this as well and set up shows with backdrops. And with the shows, I also had them choose a title. So before the show, I could be like, the next show, everyone, is called The Scientist Gone Wrong, or Buzzy Saves the Day, or The Rabbit Monster, or my personal favorite random one, 2 unicorns and the big fat tomato sauce. And then we would just do shows together. So that is another way that we use these puppets. And in terms of how we explored using these puppets, actually I'm going to use how long was each session. My sessions were, that's a really good question. We did it intentionally. The first session was, I think, 20 minutes or half an hour. We kept it pretty short. And then the next session, we pushed it to about 45 minutes. And then after that, it was roughly an hour. So we extended it each time because we weren't sure what it would be like to do this thing on Zoom. And I should say we had no shows. So when I said we had 3 students in a group, there were supposed to be 6, but half of them didn't show up. And that was pretty much across the board for remote learning, is we'd have pretty much 50% attendance. Okay, so in terms of the kind of things we would do, I would put on some music and we would have a dance party. That was really good. Angry. We would do hot seating, where we would ask questions to a particular character. If someone would like to ask Dino Girl a character, please write it in a question. Please write it in the chat box below. Anyone would like to ask Dino Girl a question? Anyone? Anyone? Dino Girl. Oh, why is she so angry? Because I'm in social isolation. What does your fart smell like?
A dinosaur.
It smells like rose petals, actually. It's quite a rose petals with a mix of Glen 20. So that was Dino Girl. Anyway, moving on. So we had all sorts of fun with these. And one thing I should mention is we use these to also start training. Every time we did these Zoom sessions, we would be training through games how to use the screen. So we would be going right up close. Simon says, go right up close to the screen. And Simon says, fly away. Simon says, enter the screen one way. Hello. Simon says, enter the screen another way. hello. Simon says, enter the screen another way, hello. And so we would just have that going all the way along. We did try one thing which sort of worked, which was TikTok theater, where we had one piece of music from TikTok and people had to come up with a dance that was like literally 6 seconds long, and we just watched each other and we would spotlight. And so those are some of the things we did with these collage puppets. And yeah, I think that's about it for me. I've like gone way over. Sorry, Frank. I just gone, you know, having a craft show has been like a dream, and having an audience to do craft with has been a delight. A couple of final things I'll show you before I hand it back to Frank is this is Campsie Public School is a bilingual school, and so bilingual as in English and Korean. It's got a very strong Korean community there. And so I tried to, and I'm also half Korean, half Japanese, and it was important to me to include those elements into our sessions. So another thing I did is I asked them what their favorite colors were, and in keeping with Escape from Trash Mountain, looking at, you know, recycle things, and instead of just showing a screen with like things typed up, I just made this display and wrote it in both Korean and English. And so that's something else that we did. And with their responses, I've noted down what their favorite colors are. So for a future activity where I had to make puppet packs that were sent to them, I made sure that their favorite colors were in those puppet packs. Because one of the things that I make sure when I do a workshop is try and get to know, I guess it's all about know your audience, and that's how you really engage them. And so know what their favorite animals are, know what their favorite colors are, and, you know, and then hopefully after that, you'll really get to know them as well. And we created, actually, this will be the last thing I show you. Let me find my cancel. Oh, wait, no, sorry, technical. Okay, here we go. Last thing I'll show you is we also did mind maps together of things like what makes us happy. So what makes us happy, what makes you sad, what makes you hopeful, those kinds of things. And these are 8-year-old children, so these are 8-year-old answers. Watermelon, annoying my brother, knowing my mum loves me, art, the Bulldogs, video games, Mercedes Benz, and Miss Kuma, who is their teacher, are all things that make them happy. And we did all different kinds of things, you know, things that we like, which was actually very similar, visiting my grandma in Indonesia, and that sort of was a nice way of leading into, well, how do you feel about not being able to go and see her? How have you been able to connect with her? And then we talked about using FaceTime and Skype and other ways, but it's not quite the same. And of course, they told me that I had to draw a plane that was right next to their grandma, so that they could feel like they were going straight to her. Noodles, kneadable erasers. I've never had anyone tell me that that's what makes them happy. Minecraft, Nintendo Switch, planting trees, dogs, trying new foods, and again, annoying my brother and dad. Stop annoying me. Some of the things that 8-year-olds just really seem to love to do. So that is it for me. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that was helpful.
Okay, your work is amazing. It's beautiful, amazing, and inspiring. And I know the kids have been having a great time. In some of the conversations that we've had as we've been debriefing, and just so everybody knows, as a sort of community of practice, we have artists that we all talk to each other as much as we possibly can. We have some formal mentoring relationships, some informal, and we basically we share artist reports and send them. We literally have artist reports which we have after each session, and we send them around and people read them. But Kay, you made some really interesting observations which I'd love you to share with us around the way that some students interact in Zoom as opposed to in the real room. Can you talk to us about that? Because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so one thing that I found is when I was interacting with kids on Zoom with like groups of 4 or even 3, you really would get to know these students one-on-one in a much more quiet space. Whereas now that I'm in the real world, in their classroom with a group of 29, 30 kids, I don't see those kids anymore. And I realized, funny enough, a lot of the kids who came on Zoom are the quiet periphery kids. And meeting them in Zoom first made me realize, oh, it's a very, very different feeling. And I'm actually a bit sad in a way not to be seeing them on Zoom anymore. But then at the same time, you know, there are certain kids who you could see just want to be a performer. And so you could put that spotlight on them, and that was really validating for them and a great thing. Whereas others are just so shy, and just painfully shy, and just didn't really want to be on the screen. And I should probably say, like, I know like adults who have Zoom anxiety, like seeing like lots and lots of different faces of people you don't know can make you feel quite anxious. So that's why we try different things where you're not always looking at each other, but you're looking at something else to focus away from that. One more observation which I found kind of interesting is with the magazine mashups, that collage puppet activity, all the kids on Zoom who were in their own homes made something completely original. We had a future Donald Trump with dog's legs. We had a cat man, so a man who would turn into a cat. And yeah, we just had really interesting original ideas, a banana dolphin woman. And then funny enough, when they were in the classroom and the teacher was there to help monitor things, interestingly, everyone made the same thing. It was yeah, like everyone was bringing them, was like, oh, yours is a bunny, oh, yours is a bunny, oh, yours is a bunny. And I don't know if it's a mixture of they see what someone else is making in their copy, or it might also be a mixture of the teacher is used to directing, this is how you make this thing, and everyone is copying. So I purposely didn't show any finished examples before we started, to try and just not influence at all what they were going to make. And I've tried to do that in my practice in general. If there is something that they're going to make that they sort of need to know what it is, I would have it not finished. So the basics would be there so that they could see where they're going, but it's not decorated so that no one will copy. But yeah, so those are just some of my observations.
Thank you so much. That's really wonderful. And I imagine everybody's finding different ways of that as people are getting more savvy with Zoom and understanding and playing with it more and more, that they're seeing different people interact with it differently. Just like the observation I made before about this sort of seems to be a lack of people using virtual backgrounds like they were in the beginning. And there's things are changing. It's finding its feet as a medium, or it's finding its own sort of way of being, and people are finding their way through it. So those observations I thought were really important in regards to how it brings some kids into the spotlight and sends some others out, and it has different impacts on other people. So what is Zoom? Going back to that question. What we're going to do, we're going to have a bit of a break just so we get people, it's not going to be long. What we're going to do is we're going to put you into a whole series of different breakout rooms. And we thought, because that's been quite successful over the last couple of sessions. And so we're going to randomly distribute you into a series of breakout rooms, and then we might randomly shuffle you around those breakout rooms as well a little bit. So you'll find yourself landing into a breakout room if you accept it. And in that breakout room, we'd love you to discuss something. We'd love you to discuss what have been some of the most exciting digital interactions or digital inclusive art that you've experienced. So you're going to discuss what have been some of the most exciting digital interactions or digital interactive art that you've experienced. So just have a quick discussion around that, just because we want to push this as a form and as a place, and there's so much work that's out there that you guys have done, that other people have done, that's currently. So let's just try and raise some of that to the floor. Hope that makes sense. And then when we come back, we're going to do a physical activity, so I can see people yawning and kind of starting to kind of, be sitting on their bums for quite a long time. So we'll be about 5 minutes. We were going to do longer, but here you go.
that she was in my breakout room as well. So she would really probe, which I loved, and realised that I crave that a lot more. I'm trying to remember exactly what we did on that session. Part of it was the emergence of writing. The methods and the pace of the chat really worked for me. I struggled with the pace because I couldn't both be
All right. Apologies about the brutal 15 seconds. So every time I seem to change, it goes back.
Hello.
Zoom bombers.
Zoom bomb. I don't know where are we. We're all back in the room now. Yeah.
We're all back in the same one space.
I love that.
Apologies for the brutal 15 seconds. Every time I change 15 minutes, it somehow reverts back to 15 seconds. So, Kay, you want? We were going to do one more workshop, which involved our Lural. So, do you want to lead this one? We've kind of flipped around a little bit, but seems like just to, there's going to be a chance to. Hopefully, those reflections were good, and you got to have some conversations about how they could, I'd like to be great to have a big conversation about all of it, but it's going to be very tricky. But there'll be an opportunity to come back to all of this just at a closing moment. So just to get us a little bit active and to give us another example of how Zoom works, Kay is going to lead us through another exercise.
So to give you a little bit of context of this, when like the whole COVID thing happened, I mentioned I am General Secretary of Unimer Australia, puppetry organisation, and we started Zooming together, and I wanted to find a way that we could sort of connect with each other, and we tried passing objects through the screen, but it didn't really work because everyone's configuration was different, but throwing stuff at each other works like a treat. So we came up with Pass the Loo Roll. Very timely because loo roll was a very precious commodity back then. So what we're going to do is I am going to throw the loo roll to somebody, and then when you catch it, you go like this. And then you can then, and so I'll be like, so for example, as a practice, I'm going to say, Sue Wallace in New South Wales, can you see me, Sue? And Sue, if she's waving, you can like swipe your screen to make sure you can see waving Sue. Sue, do you have a loo roll, by the way? Yes. Okay, I am going to throw my loo roll to you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, Sue, you can choose to throw it to someone else.
Okay, Chris Hardy, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, here you go. You ready?
Yep.
Sorry, I've got to throw it out on the screen. Oh. I'm going to do that again. You ready?
I can't see it.
Here it goes. Unwrapped en route.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Got
a tail.
Someone else?
All right, Rachel.
Rachel, which Rachel?
Rachel from WA. She just waved.
Rachel in WA. If you want to wave, Rachel, so we can all find you. Okay.
I'm here.
All right, here we go.
All right, 3, 2,
I'm ready.
1.
Hey, Joe from New South Wales. You ready to catch the loo roll? Excellent. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Lily, I'm going to throw to you. Ready, go. All right, Zoe, I'm going to throw to you.
Zoe. Oh, Zoe.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to throw it to Gabby. Gabby, you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no. Throw strings past me.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, Gabby, can you throw it to everyone? Maybe yours will multiply. Maybe yours is the magical loo roll. Everyone. Gabby? 2, 3. Thanks for playing Pass the Loo Roll.
Amazing, amazing. So listen, there's a series of other really physical games that that we played with, which were similarly like that. So games of opposites, where you had to do the opposite. So we said everybody go to, it's like Simon says, we'll do a super fast version of it, but everyone go to a screen right. So just move over to the screen right, and then everybody go to screen left. Screen left. Everybody do an extreme close-up. So get as close as you can. Closer, closer, close as you possibly can. Okay, then everybody do, yeah, that's, someone get a photo of that. And everybody to stand up and far away from
Photo.
So a long shot. If I say screen right, everybody go screen right. So everybody go screen right.
Wait, what screen right?
You're right. Everybody go screen left. Screen left. Extreme close up. Long shot.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay, so now we're going to do the opposite. So if I say screen left, that means go screen right. If I say screen right, that means go
left.
If I say extreme close up, that means go. If I say long shot, that means close up. Okay, you ready? So, okay, and close up. Screen right.
I know my left or my right.
It's so funny.
Long shot. Okay, and well, you can make that complicated and longer and add in more commands, and people can be eliminated, and it works differently in different settings. But super fun, and all the physical exercises work really well. Other artists tried some beautiful things like ghost stories. So if everybody just comes right up to the camera, come really close. So we're kind of intimate, and we just, if you could, come closer, everybody, come closer. And this space is really different. It's really different to Zoom. So if you're really close, you can start to disrupt this pattern that we're used to, and you can tell very intimate ghost stories. Like one day, I woke up to find my arms were no longer there, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and people can, and so, but even just being in this space is really nice. And so, there's a beautiful artist called Luke Escom who does, who would tell stories, and all the kids have Foley sounds they have to make to, and they have to, the first thing that he gets them to do is to lie on the ground and not look at the screen and just listen to the voice. There's a whole series of other kind of lovely things where people were asked to go to their fridge with, and they had to find a character in their fridge and take a photograph of it. And then they had to come back with that photograph, or they could take us on a tour with their phone, with the Zoom on the phone, and we go to their fridge and we'd explore the characters in their fridge and then write about those characters. So people have really tried to push into this space and do things that is only possible in Zoom. Another lovely one was hide and seek, where people turn their video off, and then you could only do this if you weren't on a desktop, if you were on a mobile phone, a laptop, or an iPad, and you had to run to a part of your house in 20 seconds and hide. And then you turned your video on, and you were like, people had to try and guess where you were, or then you had to tell a story about the area you were in. And those kind of things were really fun. And again, we would always ask, did we care? Was I engaged? Did I care about this? Another, I'm really rushing fast now, but one lovely quick thing, which we'll do a really quick version of, and Kay, you might have to help me out here, is I'm going to share a screen with you, a whiteboard screen. So if you haven't done a whiteboard will pop up, and then there's an opportunity for us to draw into it. So I'm going to pop up the whiteboard, and then we're going to pick a circle object, and Kay will talk us through. She's good at talking people through exactly how to find that circle. And so here comes a whiteboard. So Kay, lead us through how to find that circle object.
If you direct your mouse to the top of your screen, you'll see something that says View Options. It's black with a drop down. And so you click on that drop down menu and you'll find Annotate. And so you'll click on Annotate, A-N-N-O-T-A-T-E, Annotate. And then a toolbar will show up. And on that toolbar, you are going to find the draw function. It's a blue squiggly line. Some people are already going nuts with it, which is fantastic. And when you click on that blue squiggly line called draw, you're going to find a circle. It's the bottom right-hand circle. But you know what? Just seeing everyone go for it is also a lot of fun. So maybe that's even better than what we had.
Circle, and let's let's try and stick to a 4 or 5 colors. So pick colors that other people have picked, and just play with the circle. And we're just going to play and just push into this space as many people as we can. Just see how it goes.
Yeah. So again, the circle function, you go to draw, and then you click on the circle on the bottom right. And to change colors, it says format. There's a little colored square, and you can change the colors.
So we would put on music for these moments and just draw together.
Oh.
And for anyone who was asking, how do you, can't find the circle. Yep, so toolbar at the top, you click on draw, click on that and find the circle down the bottom. Someone asked before, how do you color in pictures? So I would do exactly the same thing. I would put the picture that I had drawn and we would color it in together. So instead of share screen, I would share a drawing using the share function. I did find one thing that doesn't always work is phone devices and iPads. So I'm not sure how this function works with that.
I can't do it.
There is a little, there's a little drawing, a little pencil symbol, usually on the left-hand corner of a phone, and that will give you the options.
Yeah, it looks like the iPad's options might either not be there or it might just be different and we're not sure. So very sorry. But I hope you are enjoying seeing the craziness.
So another really lovely thing, I'm just gonna, so we've got a couple of seconds left, but this is another really nice one. So I'm just gonna clear everything and just stand down for a second, everybody.
Stand down.
Stand down. Okay, we're gonna do one line at a time. The exercise is one line at a time, and we are going to create a character. Okay, so just take some, allow this, we're just gonna create a character. It's the only instruction, so no talking. And just one line at a time, and see how and see where we end up.
Well, this is your last one because we are going to have our lunch and play and all that stuff. Yeah, so this is your last one. Good on you, hon. My workshop.
As we keep drawing, so please keep drawing and working into this, you know, pushing into the landscape and types of this multiple multiverse that's emerging. This has been experiments in Zoom, you know, we've been nice, and there's so much, when you really open it up, there is so much to do in here. And so I'm gonna ask this question and let it hang there, but what is Zoom? Like, if it's a place where different kids express themselves differently. It's a place where we can all work together in a way that we couldn't in the real world, like we are right now. What is it? And I suspect in 5 years, that answer will be so different. I hope you've enjoyed the amazing work of Kay, and you've enjoyed kind of some experiments that we've been trying, and keep a view on what's happening with the Creative Leadership and Learning Program at the Opera House. There's amazing artists doing some incredible work. And so, yeah, you can view the work on the website, on the web page. You can see videos of past examples of past work we've done. It's been a real pleasure hanging out for the last 2 hours. Please post things in the chat comment if you can while we're drawing. I'm not sure whether we can at the same time.
And I'll also say, if anyone has any questions about the work I've done or anything I've done today, I'm happy for people to contact me. So Alex, I can send you my email address, or I think you already have it. So I'm happy for you to send it to the participants if people want to contact me as well.
Paparoos is the name, yeah?
Yes. Yes. I'll type it in as well. Kay's email. Don't know if it'll show up. Info.
Just going to jump in and say thank you, Frank. Thank you, Kay. Thank you all that are contributing to Shifting and Stirring. And thank you everyone for attending, because clearly we couldn't do this amazing image without all of you. To let you know that Shifting and Stirring number 4 is on Monday, the 29th of June. And that'll be the last. We're going to take a break and reassess and see whether we want to move forward and what that might look like. I'll be sending out a feedback survey. We really love you reflecting on each of them, because we do meet and reflect and try and make it as strong as we can. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks, everybody. Real pleasure.
It's 10 a.m.
Yeah.
10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Australian Western Standard Time, and everything in between.
I don't have the courage to press stop share and end this drawing.
I've saved it, Frank, so yeah, so it won't be gone.
Right, I'm going to take an image of it and we can post it.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to leave it there, and you guys can keep drawing as much as you want.
Yeah, sure.
Last mark is exit the screen.
Yeah. Oh, why is that not working?
You right, Luke? What are you after?
Trying to spell something. I am.
What are you wanting to spell?
I know how to spell it. I do. Because sometimes when you say do send it in those, no, it won't do it.
Oh, have you pressed return? Are you in the chat?
Yes, now, yes. I was there before, might work before.
Did you press enter or return after you'd written your word?
Yes, I did.
I think that at the moment the chat option isn't up. Is that right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Chat option I can't seem to bring up while we are in share.
I've been able to do it just by not being in full screen.
Ah, yep. I can't seem to exit full screen.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can't work that out.
Oh,
either.
then there were 5. There are 5 people left.
Luke, you can probably express any appreciation directly to these guys without writing it, because it's now.
Cool.
I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Mine was
Taking an
good.
image.
Mine was good. Hello Adelaide. Mine was good. The spirit and space. It was.
Spirit in space.
Yeah. Right.
Beautiful.
Okay, that's what you're saying before. Yeah, that's great, Luke. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
Because
Yeah.
I can't, because I tried to type it though in the chat room though, and didn't work.
Oh, okay.
I think, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Is there a spirit in this space? I think there is sometimes. I think there can be a spirit in this space.
Yeah.
Not always there though in Zoom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Luke. We'll see you next time. Hey.
You too.
Okay. Lovely to
Thank
see your face.
Bye, Luke.
You too. Love you all.
Love you too, Luke. Bye.
Yeah.
Great. Yay, well done. That was great.
Good little last little kind of burst of energy, which felt like it really needed it.
Yeah, I think, it's that thing about the participation is just so
Crucial.
craved, I think. Like, yeah, it was interesting. Some of the things, people were like, what's the best digital experience you've had? And people were like, shifting and stirring.
Yeah.
They were like, everything else is just like at us, not in, like, and I guess that's the thing, like we've been, well, not like even, like I think it's really, a lot of us haven't been able to practice, we haven't been able to explore this space because we haven't had the audience or the infrastructure around us to make those opportunities happen. So we haven't been playing like that. So it's it's really lovely to be able to play and imagine and think about what we will do when we get the opportunities in the future, in this new paradigm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Alex. It's kind of, it's kind of got there. I think we got there at the end. I was a bit it was a bit of a funky
Did
bit.
we stop recording, by the way?
Good call. Hi, everyone.
Hi. We can